Right, we're live. Yes, we are. We're live. Gentlemen, we're live.
Let's go, kid.
So, welcome to our Freedom Vibe podcast. Yes, hi. So this is Goha, yeah, and this is Mizan.
Sup?
So we've been doing this podcast for a while now. Shockingly, very consistent. But shockingly, yes. So yeah, we'll be back in 2 seconds, and well, we can't be back in 2 seconds. We're live.
Yeah.
Yes, we're live. Woo. So anyway, welcome to another Freedom Vibe podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vibes, and this is Goha.
Yo.
This is Mizan.
And this is Mizan, right. So let's get to today's topic. I'm sorry about the camera quality and the lighting. We decided to go on Facebook for the first time. We're usually on YouTube. As time goes on, this will get...
So work in progress.
Work in progress, yeah. We after months and months and months, we finally got a lovely mic and we're doing this from a car and a mobile phone. And
yeah, but we're making progress.
Yes, we're making progress. Anyway, so back to today's topic.
Yeah.
Right, so the general election.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the general election and the aftermath of what's about to unfold. Let's talk about what happened on the day of the election and why people chose to vote the way they did. Because I believe it's important to understand. I mean, it doesn't affect anything. It is what it is now. It's happened. And to be honest, people can't live with it. Because if we start rallying like everyone did about Brexit, about the referendum, it'd get rather silly, you know. So, well, I don't accept the result of Boris's election. No, I don't. People say that I don't accept the result of Boris's election, and you know, half the country voted here. Unfortunately, the Blues said it all. So there's a reason why the blue collar voted for blue this time.
Just check out the map, man. You see that UK map?
Yeah, just the map alone is shocking.
Right there.
Shocking. I mean,
except for Scotland.
Yeah, Scotland, the yellow. Scotland itself has got its own not issues, but its own agenda. But what we need to understand here is that this is not the same as 1985. The comparison they're making, that there was a landslide victory like 1985's Thatcher's winning. That was a different reason. Number two, the Labour losses is not comparable to Michael Foot's, or as worse as the 1930s. There was a reason why this happened, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
If I could just say one thing, because you know people are saying that, like, come
a bit closer.
If there was someone like Tony Blair, Labour would have got more votes or would have been likely to win. But if you look at the votes in terms of how many people voted for Tony Blair in both of his elections and how many people voted for Jeremy Corbyn in both of these elections, Corbyn actually got more votes than Blair did in his time.
But people have a very short memory. Blair lost the election after having three terms, right? 3 terms?
2 terms.
2 terms.
Think,
okay.
In the third term, he actually gave it up because Gordon Brown came in.
Okay, so he didn't give it up. There was a reason why he gave it up to Gordon Brown, and Gordon Brown.
But he actually just stepped down, basically.
He stepped down. Gave the baton over to Gordon Brown, and Gordon Brown did what he did, and he lost the election. 2 years. And then Mr. Miliband came along, and waltzed his way. And lost that election twice over, right? Disgustingly, the third. People disconnected totally with New Labour.
I was rooting for the other brother, though, man. You know, David.
Being honest, David Miliband. Let's talk about David Miliband here. You know, he's more articulate. Far more charismatic. But again, you got to remember, he's a Blairite. These are Blairites, and Blairites are centre. Right. Okay.
I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think you know, if like instead of Ed Miliband, if David Miliband was given the leadership role, I don't see anything that would make me think that he would have done significantly better than his brother.
No one knows until it happens. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just thought he just kind of looked a bit more prime ministerial. I know I hate using that word and all that, but he just looked like more of a leader. I'm not knocking nothing by Ed, because I think Ed was painted in the media as a kind of dry character as well. There was a bit of a campaign against him.
This is something that was important for me to find out. The reason why he was, painted like that is because it's instead, in regards to his economic policies, he was actually very left, and that never came about. I didn't know that, but in terms of certain of his policies, he was actually more left-leaning than his brother. And I think that
David Miliband.
Ed Miliband is more left-leaning than David Miliband.
He had the union support. Ed Miliband had more unions. I remember that, and hence one of the reasons some people say he won that leadership.
Okay, so let's go back to the subject here.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about Tweedledum and Tweedledee for a second. To all respect to them. Back to business. Yeah. So let's go back to the subject. The reason why people voted for Boris this time, broke historical traditions of voting Labour, and voted blue. The reason why, Brexit, and they didn't believe in Corbyn. They believed some of the words were Corbyn will take us back to the 70s. So let's talk about the 70s for a second. Let's explain what happened in the 70s before we talk about what's so funny.
The first thing that came to my mind was flares. Let's talk about the 70s. That's all I was thinking about there, man.
The clothing and
the big curlies. And that moustache to go with it.
So I mean,
look, let's talk about the 70s for a second, right? So the 70s was a time of great transformation for the UK. You had the decline of the industrial age in the 70s. We had successive prime ministers who battled with parties and the public. So you had the Callahans, the Heath. God, I can't remember who else it was. My brain is too late. But anyway, in 1975 or 76, we joined the EU. The UK in 1979, the industrial age is totally finished, gone. It had lost. People had lost work. Sheffield, you name it, up north, everyone was out of a job.
Thatcher came in.
So Thatcher came in with, a hope for a new future, a hope for a new Britain. She quoted Francis Assisi. What was that quote? Where there is hope. I can't remember what's
Assisi,
what's the quote? Pull it up on your phone. Quick. So, okay, so she quoted Francis Assisi, and this mantra thing came out, and she promised to transform the country. But that was the rise of capitalism then, the true rise of
liberalism.
Neoliberalism. And people still suffered. The poll tax came along and blah blah blah, and riots went, miners' strike. Arthur Scargill, remember him from Labour? That's when Labour was Labour to its core.
Militant as well.
Militant left, socialist, very, very aggressive in its stance. Somewhat you could call it to the extreme of what's the climate change protest group? Extinction Rebellion. But more within Labour, and more of a protest movement. A huge, unions were big then. So at that time there was all of that happening. Now, how can Corbyn take you back to the 70s? Because that's what he's known for. He was known. People forget about Corbyn's rise to being a politician, and being a politician and he doesn't see himself as a leader. He sees himself as an activist.
Well, I mean,
no, I understand what I'm saying here. He sees himself as an activist, rather than being a leader of the masses and towards to say politician, because he believed that we serve the people. That's what we're here for. Because in the 80s, if there was an interview I saw with Corbyn in the 1980s, 83, I think it was, 84, and it was against another conservative politician, and he just blatantly turned around and said, "Listen, you lot, we have a meeting, and you lot are running in your limousines away. I'm coming on my cycle, He said, I'm only in Islington. I've got flats down the road and you're coming in your limousines going to dinner parties. You think this is a social club?
Yeah.
That's how it was in the 80s. It was literally a social club. Yeah. I mean, you can name many bodies, governing bodies of schools were like social clubs. They were like the elite of everything. They come in and have a dinner party. Okay, great. Results. Go off and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's how it was back then. There was just this elite type of mentality, and people, rode the system. It was there was no accountability at that time. And a socialist or anyone that spoke up was seen as a far leftist, or So then, the word Marxist was thrown around.
Yeah.
Marxist, communist, Corbynism, the coin of phrase now by Andrew Neil.
Yeah.
The most ethical journalist on the BBC.
Right. Okay. Some people disagree, but
no, I'm being sarcastic. Come on, man. Okay. The guy's a plum. I don't like him.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be straight with you. If I ever became a politician and I sat in front of him and he started coming out with his verbal diarrhea, I would give him a tongue lashing. I'll just give him what George Galloway would have given him.
Yeah.
Being that's what he deserves. Anyway, that's that.
Anyway, that's another issue.
Corbynism, to coin a phrase comparable to communism. Do people know what Marxist?
But, I mean, if I could just go back, but that term Corbynism is actually something that has been appropriated by the movement as well. So people who support Corbyn actually will say that this is the Corbyn project or Corbynism.
They call themselves Corbynistas.
Yes, Corbynistas. So it's not like Andrew Neil might have a different definition, but we have our own definition, and that's fine.
My definition is this.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we won't play that.
Yeah, let's not play that.
Francis Assisi.
Is that the one?
Yeah. Lord, make me an instrument. Nah, man.
No.
That's it. Where there is darkness. Okay. So I want you to read that out for a second. I'm going to explain this. Go on. Go.
Okay. Francis of Assisi, or Saint Francis of Assisi, as you know.
Talking to the mic.
Lord, make me. This is his quote. Sorry.
She didn't say the Lord part, by the way. It was just to quote that. Like,
what part do you want to say?
Where there is darkness, there is light.
Just that part, yeah.
Yeah.
You just said it, bro. Where there is darkness, there is light, and where there is sadness, joy. That's it.
Actually, that wasn't it.
That wasn't even it. Oh.
No, where there is hunger, I will bring whatever, blah, blah.
So let me read the whole thing.
Okay, go for it.
Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Okay, so she said it very differently. Okay. Yeah. And why I'm stressing about what she said is because she had this thing where she's going to bring a new form of Great Britain. She's going to make Britain great again. Everyone says that, though, don't they? Every new leader, every new election, we're going to take Britain back, or we're going to, not just in Britain or America as well, but you know what I mean? We're going to make the country great again. Change is going to come. Every single election is the same thing.
Do you know, for me, I'll tell you what it is, right? For me, when this country has, economically, it's, when they call it one of the richest nations on earth, we're actually not, because we don't have any reserves. Yeah, we're banking on paper money. So I think they're fooling a lot of the people. Some would say it's near enough bankrupt and we're just running on debt. there's a debt cycle in this country.
There is a debt cycle, massive debt cycle.
So yeah, so for me, can Britain be great? That's a subject for us to talk about on another podcast. Yeah, so that's something to watch out for, guys. Can Britain be great again? Okay, so
was it ever great, and can Britain be great?
Or is it great already?
Yeah, so okay, that's a subject. That's another subject. So let's go back to the subject here. Corbyn, yeah. Why did people vote against him, and why did people hate him so much? There was a lot of media propaganda, yeah. So Corbyn's party, his MPs, yeah, those on the right who are leaning towards the centre right, yeah, forced him to adopt the premise of what he was coming out with now, where we go to people's vote. That's what shot him. That's the thing that shot him. For me, Corbyn should have said, you know what? The people voted to leave. As a democratic country, we need to go with leave. Period.
Initially, that's what, because before he came out with the neutral stance and all that, the thing that they were spending more was that they didn't communicate it very well or very clearly, but what they were saying was we want to leave with the deal. They did want to initially honor the referendum result. It's just that they didn't agree with the deal that initially Theresa May got and then what Boris got. So they were just, the whole thing was we're going to call an election, which obviously they lost. But the initial plan was to call an election, get into power, negotiate a new deal and kind of put that through. Then it kind of started coming to, okay, well, once we get that deal, then we do a referendum. And then that's the kind of stance they settled on. But initially, I think they did want to honor the referendum, but they just wanted a better deal. But down the line, from all the twists and turns it took, at the end, they came to get a new deal and then go to a referendum. That's what I settled on.
I mean, what people are forgetting is that, first of all, you're right, this was the Brexit election, to be honest with you, and people were very, people did vote decisively, vote on that. Canvassing for them on the doorstep was a bit of a learning experience for me. So, when we were talking to people face to face, the whole Brexit issue would come up. People forgot that, because people forgot that Jeremy Corbyn, I think was it a year and a half ago, he actually did go to the European Union and actually start having these debates with the leaders of the European Union and actually got some information in regards to a viable deal. Now, the thing is, what we got on the doorstep is that people forgot how can the Labour Party get a deal in 3 months? Well, people forgot that Jeremy Corbyn himself had those preliminary talks with the European Union prior to that, and he actually had a conference as well that day when he went over. So people forgot that, and also what the position is that people actually get to vote on the deal. And that wasn't, I don't think that was communicated clearly enough, because with the Conservatives, you're not really getting to vote on the deal. You're getting to vote on leave, but you don't know what that means. Whereas with the Labour, they're giving you the chance to vote on the deal. That was the position. Now, the thing is, you're right. Corbyn was actually pushed by, the centrists and the Blairites to actually take that neutral position or to take their position, which is Remain. And I think that messed it up. But also, again, from my experience on the doorstep, canvassing on the doorstep, I would always get this opinion, which is that people would always say, listen, we hate Boris, but we can't vote for Corbyn. We can't go with Corbyn. And the reasoning they would always give is because of what's being said about him in the media. And
what does that tell you about? Sorry, what does that tell you about the public, and how gullible? See, I know I posted something up about Stanley Johnson, Stanley Johnson.
Yeah, Stanley Johnson.
Mr. Johnson's father. Yeah. And And he literally, like, didn't even mince his words, to be honest.
Yeah.
He called the English public, the working class, illiterate.
Yeah.
That they couldn't even spell the word Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Yeah. This Pinocchio word. He even asked a lady who was interviewing him, "Can you spell Pinocchio?" And she just veered off the subject. He said, "Well, I rest my case. People are illiterate. They cannot even spell the word Pinocchio. They'll fall for anything."
Yeah.
And he sat there arrogantly, absolutely arrogantly, like they genuinely think they're above everyone else. And that's the mentality they have. Yeah. This baton has been passed. My prediction, this is just my prediction, and there may not be a Conservative government after Johnson's. I keep calling him Boris Johnson, Bojo.
Yeah.
There may not be a Conservative government after this 5-year term. There may be a Labour government. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my prediction, George Osborne will be one of the next prime ministers.
Where is he now? What position?
He's the chief editor of the Evening Standard, which is the most influential newspaper there is in London.
Wasn't he the Chancellor of the Exchequer?
He was indeed, yes.
Okay,
he was indeed. Which he I think he did he lose his seat or did he resign as an MP? I can't even remember. But
so he's coming back.
Yeah, that's just my prediction on things. Yeah. Because the baton's passed around here. Yeah, it's a trend I'm seeing amongst these. The Tories have played a game from day one. Yeah, really they have. And if anyone with political insight, they can see what's happening here. Yeah, you got to understand psychology, what they're doing. They have fooled, and the mastermind behind this whole thing is that guy, Dominic Cummings.
Oh no.
Yeah,
okay.
Dominic Cummings.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things that you said. Some I agree with, some I disagree with.
What do you disagree with? Tell me.
I wouldn't like coming after the general election now again, and this is from again talking to people face to face, the canvassing. I was actually kind of shocked in regards to how many people actually rely on mainstream media for their news source. But I wouldn't really come out and say that. I don't think it's helpful to come out and say that people are gullible, people are silly, and all that kind of stuff.
No, but I'm quoting. Yeah,
that's Stanley. Stanley Johnson. Yeah. I don't, because some people within the movement have taken that rhetoric on board now. After the election, there are a lot of people saying that what, poor people voted for Johnson. They deserve everything that happens to them now. All that kind of stuff. I understand the feeling, but I don't agree with the rhetoric or that viewpoint because it's not helpful. Secondly,
I can say I fear for them. I fear for what's about to happen.
Yeah, and we all do. And that's all of us. But the thing is, there's this rhetoric and this understanding now that these people deserve to get what's coming for them because of the way they voted. I don't share that view because I think that's, first of all, we're all human beings. We all should be treating it with each other with dignity and respect. Secondly, that is also a kind of divide and rule kind of mentality that is coming in. And thirdly, that viewpoint is just a view of hate. Like you hate these people because of the way they voted. So, but I think what was interesting is that this view of the general mass and the public, they will always vote for something that's good. That they can't be broken down. That really is shattered, because what you had is 4 years of constant negative attacks, constant barrages.
He's the only leader in history that has had that type of barrage of attack.
So the thing is, what you had in play is, and this was why a lot of people would say we can't vote for Corbyn, because they would always use some kind of media scandal or something to say that he's racist, he's this, that, he's a Marxist.
One Sedgefield MP, the guy for Sedgefield, who's Tony Blair's old constituent, said that because he had affiliations with Hamas.
Yeah.
That was highlighted on the door, and that's what was said to him on the door. He said he could have given that all up, but he chose not to. He decided to side with Sinn Féin at the time in the 80s. But when you look back, he decided to side with terrorists, which was the word that was said. Yeah. When you look back, he was right. He was trying to bring a peace process in Ireland.
Yeah.
When Blair came in, what did he do? Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah. So some people say that, look, you know, people like Blair and all these other people, they actually had relationships with Sinn Féin after the Good Friday Agreement and stuff. But you needed to have people before that to actually get the deal on the table. Now the thing is like I just want to revert it back to like what I was making, the point I was making previously. The constant barrage of attacks was actual Noam Chomsky's theory of manufacturing consent in play.
Yes.
And the thing is, people are saying, okay, you know what, you had 2 elections in 2017. Why didn't people think the same way as they did in 2019? But the thing is, by then, in 2017, Corbyn was largely seen as someone who's new, someone who's fresh, someone who many people didn't know about. But by this time, after 4 years of constant attacks, you saw the ideas actually start to break the working class.
The people, you have to understand as well is that when you have one party who ashamedly and abhorrently and, you know, with no regard for democracy whatsoever, turn around and say, we are going to revoke Article 50 and we're here to stop Brexit. Which is the Lib Dems, contrary to their name. There was one party that was one. And I've always said it, you know, as much as I love some of them are really good friends of mine, really nice bunch of people. But unfortunately, the policies I disagree with totally, because I think they jump in a bandwagon, opportunist.
But Jo Swinson was never described as a racist. She was never described as a terrorist sympathizer, for example.
No.
Neither was Boris Johnson.
No, but my point is this, sorry to interrupt. My point is this, is that you had one party like that. Then you had the accusation towards Labour. Well, look, you know, they're not even pro or leave or remain. They don't even know what they're doing. Look. And that's what was constantly put forward. Look, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know.
And you saw that break. You actually saw that idea break through to people. So when you go and knock on people's doors, they will verbatim just repeat what they were hearing on the news.
So you're saying people are not thinking for themselves in a way?
I think,
They're just accepting what the mainstream media is giving them, and they're not questioning it.
After 4 years of constant barrages, that was what it was.
But when you're told on the door, you know, I'm you know, I could be an ex-mining family, and I open the door, and this conservative chap is in front of me, and it's like, you know, I'm fed up of you lot, right? Always arguing in Parliament every week, and I bloody hate it. And I don't like this type of stuff that's going on. Why can't you just get the job done? We voted to leave, and you can't even do that as politicians. You're a disgrace. And all of a sudden, look, I understand what you're saying. That's absolutely fine. You know, I totally sympathize with you, sir. Absolutely. As a politician, as a Conservative Party, but we try to get Brexit done, and the party, we try to push it through Parliament. But unfortunately, the other parties, they don't want to even know. They've blocked us. And then they leave the guy with, look, if you vote for us, we'll get it done. That's it. We're just trying to get it done. We keep on getting blocked by these other parties.
Yeah, that's what I want.
So that's it. And if you want, you know, NHS and all this other stuff, let's just get this done first. So if you saw on the news, when they talked to these people, all that was said was, Boris is the man to get it done.
But here's the thing.
It's like the robots.
They've
been conditioned mentally by the news. Get Brexit done, get Brexit done, get Brexit done in their head.
But that wasn't the only thing, though. There was.
There was other stuff.
Get Brexit done, aligned with Corbyn's a terrorist sympathizer and
That's
there's something Goha actually said, which is what I want to come across, because it actually reminded me of something. There's numerous times when I've knocked on a door and people actually said to me, we get our information from the mainstream news. And this is where we get our information from. If there are different stuff, why aren't they putting out there? And the number of times I had to say that, look, if you have someone who is generally for the working class, who is generally standing for progressive values and principles, and those progressive values and principles directly challenge the status quo, the media aren't going to support you. And therefore, it's the first time in a long time that people actually started to, in my dealings with them, started to question. So unfortunately, yeah, a lot of them were uncritical about it.
Right. So, okay. So we're half an hour into the show. We've got another 15 minutes left. We're live out on anchor.fm. You'll see the link on the Freedom Vibe podcast page. Please do join us. We will be back with you in 5 minutes. You might see us folly around. Actually, in about a minute, I'm just going to load up again. So thank you very much for listening on anchor.fm. And we'll be with you in about 5 minutes with the second part of what on earth happened on the election of 2019. Thank you very much for listening. And those on Facebook now, stay with us because we're going to be with you in 2 minutes.
Peace.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, we're going to, you lot talk amongst
you know what? Just
have a conversation. Keep the crowd interested.
I want to pick up just what Miz was saying.
Yeah.
So you got the heads and they're getting all their information from mainstream media. So what would you advise people who just listen to mainstream media and get all the information from there? What would you advise them where to get your information from?
You know what?
Alternative media.
Yeah, where is alternative media?
Internet.
Where in the internet? There's a lot of false information on the internet.
Yeah, to do a Google search. Actually, what we were saying is, look, you have these issues with Corbyn. Check out his voting record. The problem was.
All right. Before we get into that, where do people get the correct information? All right. Because so it wasn't necessarily in the mainstream media this time.
Yeah.
So where do they go?
On the internet.
Yeah, but where in the internet now?
Go
it's a big
to
place.
Google, type in Jeremy Corbyn voting record.
Right.
Look at
and just look at the results.
Look at the results. Look at how he voted. But the thing is, people weren't doing that because they were hearing the negative stuff from the media, and they were just going by that. And there's something else that needs to be said, unfortunately, which is that it was the hostility that we were getting in regards to the anti-Corbyn hostility were mainly from elder electorate.
So disclaimer here: Mizan is a Labour Party member.
Yeah.
You're an activist as well.
Yeah.
And a spoken word poet.
Yeah.
Hence why your stance on what you've been facing on the doorstep.
Yeah. Well, so when I say I'm on the doorstep, I was canvassing on the doorstep, and this is what we were getting. So the thing is,
can you explain what canvassing is?
When you knock on people's doors and basically you talk to them about the Labour Party.
Just so people know, because initially when I first heard that canvassing, I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
But the thing is, the interesting thing is that it was the elder electorates who were very hostile towards Corbyn, and the interesting thing is that some analysis has been done on this, and some people are saying that there was a lot of class interest as well that was that the Conservatives tapped into, and race-based interest as well. Which the Conservatives tapped into.
They exploited it, isn't it?
So it was interesting because a lot of the Corbyn was popular amongst the younger supporters.
Very popular.
But the sad thing is, if you look at Brexit, which is the thing that which is the decisive factor, mainly the elder voters supported to leave. Younger supported to remain. So this is a generational thing that came in as well.
If you saw the some of the news reports, that one of the younger what's constituent? She was from I can't remember now. Anyway, she was from a constituent up north, and she was absolutely shocked at how she said every person we spoke to on the door, was going to vote for Labour.
Yeah.
I don't know how we voted for Blue. I never met a single. She said I went to nearly every door in the town over the month.
Yeah.
She said I'm just shocked at how that happened. The thing is that when you have paper ballots.
Yeah.
And the first past the post system is one up for debate because the Liberal Democrats in 2000 when was I with them? 2000 and...
Are you talking about the...
11.
Yeah.
2011. They were pushing for the alternative vote system.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because first past the post is a bit of an archaic system. Yeah. To be honest, in this day and age, being honest, what we need in this day and age is this. Yeah, is that we need an app that's developed. Yeah. That people can, from the comfort of, I mean, then comes the fact that people cannot see your ballot paper, right? What you're voting, because apparently it's illegal. So this is what I don't understand, is that when you vote and you're in the booth, before you vote, you can tell someone who you're voting for. When you place the vote, you're not allowed to tell anyone, because it's a £5,000 fine, or it's punishable by 6 months in prison. Yeah. After you vote and you walk out of the voting, the cabin, the port cabin that they put up, or wherever the polling station is, you're allowed to tell everyone. So for me, there's obviously an archaic system that's happening here. There's something not right. So what it is that if you're allowed to tell someone before you vote who you're voting for, and after you vote you still tell someone, but when you're actually placing the vote, you cannot tell anyone I'm voting for Labour, because it's seen as influencing the system. Yeah, well, actually it's not, because you're doing it still from the comfort of your own place. You've actually influenced someone before. Make sure you vote for Labour, yeah? Because I've heard conversations that, listen, make sure you vote for this guy, just push your vote for this guy. It happens in tribal politics.
It happens,
it happens in tribal politics, which is what politics, unfortunately, is about. The lack of integrity is that people can make sure you vote for this guy, okay?
It's almost like coercing. So
it's coercing.
We say that, we live in a free society, but like you said, people really kind of influence you on who to vote for. Even that kind of freedom is for certain people who are very kind of prone to be influenced by others. It's almost like they don't make their own choice. Do you know what I'm saying? They are in a way coerced.
Yeah,
right? In that respect,
there's coercion going on in a lot of things. The thing is that what is needed is information, and for people to have that ability to process that information,
and also the ability to not be pressurized, because you do have like Adam was saying, like even like certain people, maybe work colleagues, they be go, oh no, you better not vote Labour, you better not vote Labour. You get these conversations, or you better not vote Tories. How dare you vote Tories?
I've seen people,
you get those conversations.
I have seen people. I mean, everyone has a right to saying whatever, and I'm of the similar thing. If someone has a certain mindset, and if that mindset is totally the polar opposite of my standards as a person and the principles I keep as a person, and I feel abhorrent at the thought that anyone could side with those type of people, I wouldn't want them in my company. So which is why people on Facebook say, listen, if you're voting for so Fox to Oscar, mate, because I don't like you around me. Get off my Facebook, because you're voting for these people. It's that type of war that's taking place.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's happening online now, and that's why I'm kind of against it, because even though I understand it, I'm someone who was canvassing on the doorstep. Let me
finish what I'm saying. We're going to go back online on Anchor FM now in about 2 minutes. Let me just finish this really quickly. Someone should invent an app where there is where you're able to vote from this app from your mobile phone. You'll get a higher turnout rate, and all those apps are there's all this security. You have to put your thumbprint on there. biometrics. You could have facial recognition, so that someone's there and there's no one behind you or seeing that you're voting. And you could have that may lead to a lot of other issues. I think people will be against facial recognition, record data, and all of that stuff. What do they do with that data? It's just a lot of stuff. But that thing should be, voting itself should be backed up on a blockchain. But and it's my field.
I like it.
But because blockchain is not, it's the truth cannot be altered and things cannot be manipulated. So for me, paper balloting is easily manipulated. When an exit poll comes out, and for the past 3 elections, those exit polls have been 100% correct, if not near enough.
They're very accurate.
And for me, it's mind-boggling. And how on earth do you get, from a snapshot of 20,000 people around the country, you actually get a figure of 396, 26, and it actually gets to that figure? It's mind-boggling how that happens.
Close to that figure,
Whatever, but it's just beyond me of how they actually can predict from 20,000 people a snapshot. So for me, there's some sort of irregularity that goes on. But again, that's something for. I think we can get an IT guy, a good friend of ours, can come in here and explain that. But anyway, so we're going back on live to Anchor FM, and we'll spend another 15-20 minutes having a conversation, and then we'll close up the subject as to what on earth happened at this general election. So we'll start now. Hi there, welcome to the second episode of the Freedom Vibe podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vibes, and this is...
Go hot up in here.
This is Mizan.
Right, okay, so... what on earth happened at the general election 2019? It's our second part. We had a little fruitful discussion happen just between the two episodes. But so what were we talking about beforehand? Let's recap.
Number of things, man, but
do you know, it's so late I actually forgot.
You know what I wouldn't mind talking about though? You know, we touched on the Lib Dems, and we said they took a stance of just revoke Article 50 and all these kind of things, and so obviously they had the kind of other extreme, but the thing that was kind of, I don't know, but I kind of looked at it as semi like funny, and peace to all the Lib Dems kind of voters out there. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of you guys, but prior to the Joe Swinson and at the beginning of the campaign, it was like, when they knew, even before it was like,
she was going to be the next prime minister.
Yeah, I got a leaflet through my door, like Joe Swinson, and she's got that photo, like a power kind of photo, your next prime minister, like proper, like with her policies. And then what happens? She doesn't even win her own seat. And I'm like, oh, and then she resigns.
I'll explain something. When
you look defeated there, bro. The way you just sat down completely defeated, bro.
It was comedy, man.
Her record. The thing is, her record. There was two embarrassing parts for her. Was one the actual debate that happened, the leaders' debate, and then her interview with Andrew Neil. That tore her to shreds. He tore her to shreds so bad, she was left legless in that interview. Like, it was a shame. It's just a shameful place to be. People just thought she was a joke then. I knew as soon as she came out with, I am Britain's next prime minister,
man.
It's like an emperor with no clothes. Literally, that's what it was.
And see what happened there.
Yeah, but this is how, in a way, it shows how the Lib Dems have actually, in essence, become Toryfied a little bit, in terms of how their campaign came across, the misinformation in their leafleting as well, because there were accusations of statistics being being kind of changed and all that kind of stuff in their campaign literature. But I think this is the one of the things, like, for me, the Lib Dems came across as Tory light, and this is because of the thing that they actually went into coalition with the Conservative government. And a lot of people are saying that, if there was going to be like a hung parliament and stuff like that, a lot of people were saying that, look, maybe Labour should go into coalition with the Conservatives and stuff and things like that. And then, my answer was always, look what happened to the Lib Dems. It's like, you don't go into coalition thinking you're going to change the Conservatives. In fact, the Conservatives managed to change the Lib Dems and completely get them out of the game completely.
Lib Dems haven't been the same ever since.
Yeah, so
I mean,
like with Joe Swinson, she shot herself in the foot.
Wow.
A lot of times.
Just her voting record alone in coalition government shot herself.
Yeah, so she was actually being herself. Like, however you disagree, whatever you perceive of her, she was actually being herself, and she ended up losing her own seat.
It's almost like, it's because I saw I got that thing, that leaflet from Lib Dems come through my house, like, your next prime minister, and it was just all like, yes,
what a load of bull.
And then just to see the whole culmination and the end of the result,
it was a disaster.
I have
resigning in the end. It's comedy, man.
I have some good friends from the past who are Lib Dems. I was a member of the Lib Dems for about a year and a half, and I was a Tory. Yeah, I hold some socially conservative views as in conservative Tory views, and I hold some socialist views. I'm a bit of both, yeah. Now, when I was with the Tory party, it was who was it under then? David Cameron was the leader then, I think. 2009, I was campaigning for them. To be honest, I was doing it on a councillor level, yeah.
I remember me and Miz helped you.
Yeah, we did some canvassing once.
Posted some
European elections.
Posted some leaflets for him, bro.
Keep that private, please.
Especially now, man.
I never was a member of the Tories ever. I was just helping out a friend.
I was finding myself politically, like you normally do as a young person. I wasn't young, I was in my 30s then, and I was just finding myself politically. It's 2008, and I encountered racism within the party, and I encountered prejudice within the party. I had comments come towards me, Islamophobic comments in the party. I lodged a complaint. I was brushed to one side. I went to the paper parliamentary candidate who was running for MP. He brushed me to one side. So I ripped him apart on email. I said, listen, how dare you? What are you doing? You know, you're claiming about multiculturalism, and are you actually nonsense what you're talking about? You know, I'm being here sworn at and being called all funny names by this councillor who subjected me to serious bullying, and I've kept quiet out of decency, and now I'm not going to keep quiet anymore. I'm sorry. Anyway, I just walked away from the Tory party.
How long were you there in total?
2 years.
2 years. That's quite.
Yeah,
big.
2 years. I actually stumbled. It was an accident how I got to be part of the Tory party. I
remember when you signed up, man. Do you remember we went to some kind of expo or something like that? It was Olympia, I think. And they had a stand, right?
Yeah, that was Olympia. That was Lord Sheikh was there, and his wife. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. And they had a stand there, like you signed up because me and Miss were there, and we were just like, what was Miss do? It's like he just went freestyle, just signing up to the Tory. Like, whoa.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was a project that I was doing for some youth work. I had an organization then, and someone put me through to a gentleman in Millbank, which was the head office, and I went all the way there. I had a meeting with this MP, and he referred me to my local parliamentary candidate. He said, look, why don't you do something with them? I'm sure they'll be interested. They actually brushed me off. Wow. I just remember his wife giving me the most dirty looks when I walked in. I don't know why she didn't like me. Am I one of those faces that you don't like? You know, I must be that. I must be butters, man. Seriously, for me, just a woman to give me some nasty looks when I walked into that. As soon as I walked in, it was like,
damn, bro.
I was like, what? This woman, I think it's really uncomfortable, man. When I walked in, it's like I was new. Anyway. They just brushed me off. I was talking about the youth. Make sure you get the youth vote. This is it. And, you know, internet was like it was a very, very... That was when Facebook came about on the scene, and YouTube wasn't even about then, And I said, look, you need to harbour the internet here and get the youth on board and blah, blah. And they didn't even know. They just said this unprofessional. They said our core voters are old Tories, the elder generation. That's our core voters, and that's who you target. So anyway, cut long story short, I fell out because of all of that nastiness. One opening Ayah Factor was I ran to be a councillor, and I just never forget that I sat in that meeting. And there was 20 councillors in the chamber with me, and they were talking to me about my experience and my canvassing experience and blah, blah, and why I wanted to be a councillor. And it was genuine reasons. You know, I wanted to help out my community, and as in where I lived, my ward, and I was passionate about where I lived. And anyway, and then they asked me about what I did in the past. I said, we were doing the radio station those days, and all of a sudden it's like this comment flew out from some woman on the other side. So what's your views about women? Whoa. I said, I beg your pardon. What's your views about women and the workplace and the way they dress?
Wow.
And obviously me being a young, like, you know, I'm not going to turn around and say, What the hell has that got to do with anything to do with this interview? Really?
Even though that's what you're thinking.
And that's what I was thinking in my head. I said, well, I have no problem with that. I don't know how to answer that question because I don't have any problem with anything. Then the lady turned around, the other lady, who was the chairman's wife, and said, so what is it that your religion says about working with other religions? Because you said you had a multi-faith, and so far, I haven't seen evidence of that in anywhere.
But funny thing is that if that's what she said, then she kind of answered the question. She kind of answered the question herself.
Let me cut a long story short here. Yeah, so the guy they gave the to run for councillor, one of the other councillors as councillor candidate, was a 76-year-old man, a Sikh gentleman. I spoke to him in Punjabi beforehand.
Nice.
He didn't know a word of English. He was just a hardcore canvasser, leaflet delivering.
Right.
They gave him the post over me. He couldn't speak a word of English.
What was that, councillor?
Yeah, to run for councillor.
Oh, to run for councillor.
At a certain ward.
Yeah.
He couldn't speak a word of English. He couldn't,
Not a word of English.
Yeah, not a word of English. He said, I don't know English. I've been here for 40 years.
Wow.
He's just been.
He said that in his own language, right?
Yeah, I was in Punjabi when I spoke to him before.
Right.
And when he, but no, he didn't. But when he was in the meeting, I stood outside and it was very broken English that he was speaking, very broken. Anyway, I left them. I then thought, I saw this. What was that? What was the slogan by Nick? Let's agree with Nick or something. What was it?
Oh, what was that thing that he said? Yeah.
Anyway, I got sucked into the vibe, yeah, and I thought, right, let me phone up the paper candidate for Ealing North. Lovely guy, yeah, Chris Lucas. I phoned him up, and he came to my house. Now, which paper candidate comes to your house running for MP? He came to my house.
Wow.
He took me seriously. We sat down for an hour. He brought his child with him, and we talked. And I thought, I really like this guy. Genuine, sincere guy. I went out single-handedly with him and canvassed the whole of Ealing. Yeah.
Wow.
When I say the whole of Ealing North,
it's a big area.
Me and him together. Yeah. We went Norththorpe. We went Norththorpe. We went Ealing Central. We went Perivale, Greenfield. All of those places. Yeah. And he obviously didn't win on the night. Yeah. He got 6,000 votes. Steve Pound and the MP got 28,000 or something. Yeah. But, and it was the highest ever votes that the Lib Dems ever got in Ealing North. Yeah. Highest ever. I mean, and what I wanted was those two Tory councillors who I felt did not have the integrity to lead the public because of their lack of integrity and their misogynistic and racist views and bigot views. I said, you know what? I want to kick these two out, and I'm going to canvass against them. But because for the good of the ward, yeah. Anyway, then I got part of the executive group of which I was part of the Tories. I was part of the executive group because a friend of mine forced them to put me on. Executive group of the Lib Dems. I was taking part in all the strategic stuff and everything. It was a really wonderful experience. And then I heard they joined the Tories. And I blatantly said, you will be wiped off the political map if you join the Tories. You need to go against us as a party, as a ward, the constituent. They said, look, no, we're going to toe the party line here. HS2 on top of that. I was totally dead against HS2. I said, listen, your train system needs a reinvestment. Why are you spending a vanity project when you can't even get what you've got correct already? People are standing like sardines in a tin can on a train system. You're upping. I said, either nationalize the railway and get it back in order again and pre-privatize it again once you've got it back, because they're claiming profit here. They're not doing anything to it. And you're investing billions in a vanity project. And you're going to run through houses here, which people have lived here for the whole of their lives, for two, 3 generations.
What would happen in that case? Would the houses, would they need to
move? So they would be a compulsory purchase order. You would be offered amount of money. Right. And if that wasn't the case, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who's listening, but there'll be compulsory purchase order. and they would force you to sell your house.
You would have to sell. You'd have to move
at the going rate or the market rate. I don't know what it was. Yeah.
Right.
And that's it. The village of Sipson in Heathrow, I think the third runway in Heathrow, I don't know if he's got given the go-ahead or not, but the historical village of Sipson, which is right bang next to Heathrow, it'll be gone.
So HS2, personally, would you have to sell your yard?
No. My house wasn't affected.
All right.
It was some of the other places. Yeah. Okay. But that wasn't the problem. Yeah. It was probably one or two houses that were affected, but that wasn't the problem. It was the disgusting amount of traffic and disruption it would have caused, because where I live is a central hub area. Yeah. You've got the A40 running right through, and then you've got other places, and if you cut that off, the amount of disruption to come out of my town, my village, to come out of my village, you have to only go through two exits. Is either Hanger Lane or this area here where Tesco's Hoover Building is, and that's it. Those two would have been blocked. It would have been horrible. Yeah, house prices would have gone down. It would have affected a lot of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, we won the vote. A gentleman called Alex, he led the chair party. He chaired that group.
Is that the Alex we met once?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the unfortunate character. Anyway, so that was that. I was dead against it, but I was forced to toe the party line, and I refused outright. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go against my principles, because I remembered Nelson Mandela's saying, a man who changed, or a person who changes his principles for every person they meet can never be representative of the people or choose to represent the people or be a leader. Yeah. And I remembered that, and I stuck by it. Yeah.
You know what? That's close to Alex Ferguson, Man U guy. He said something like, I can't deal with people who change their opinion or they keep changing their opinion, or something along the lines of their opinion is the same opinion of the last person they talk to about it, basically. So they like, whoever tells an opinion, the last person who have expressed it,
shouldn't look it up on the internet. That was a bit late.
Yeah, no, that was kind of dry.
That was very dry.
I'm hoping you got the gist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
should we just stick to Nelson Mandela's comment, bro?
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
Edit that part out.
There's a book there on Alex Ferguson somewhere. Winning, that's it. Winning there.
Yeah, let's just stick to Nelson Mandela's.
Anyway, forget everything I just said.
Okay, yeah.
Carry on.
Rewind selector, man. Rewind selector.
But it just shows that the mess that the Lib Dems and the Conservatives, and the similarities actually between them.
I had to walk away because I was just dismayed at the fact of how one party on the other extreme could join the party on the other extreme and then come together and run a government and come out with the bullshit, excuse my French, mantra of, in government, we're making difficult decisions every day. And that's all they repeated. We are making difficult decisions in government every day. We are making difficult, like this thing. Let's get Brexit done. Let's get Brexit done.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if you had a tape that repeated that phrase again and again and again.
But that's what was happening. That literally what was happening.
It's an affirmation.
It's an affirmation, but it's something that, people heard again and again and again and again and again, and it's something that they eventually buyed into.
Deliberately done, right?
It was, of course, it was the media have done it deliberately. And there's something there was something interesting that someone actually said. Like, we were canvassing, on the doorsteps, up and down the country. The Conservatives actually did not need to canvass because the canvassing was done via the newspapers.
Yeah, they didn't need to do nothing.
And the thing is, that's how they won over in areas where they did not even canvass, because the message was constantly pumped out by the mainstream media, by organizations, by individuals on a regular basis, and those messages broke through the public consciousness.
Labour needs to get hold of some of these media joints because some of the papers are obviously Tories.
No, they won't. They won't.
There are one or two Labour papers.
No, there are one or two journalists, but in terms of papers,
Daily Mirror, I think is Labour.
Labour will listen.
No, Daily Mirror is Tory, right? Daily Express is more even right wing than Tory.
You've got to understand something here. Yeah? No media outlet or broadcasting outlet or print media will ever advocate any form of socialism, socialist agenda ever. Period.
Yeah. Labour will always be attacked.
You will get beat.
Yeah. Labour will always be
what
attacked.
You do need is a clear policy.
Yeah.
What you do need is a clear path.
Yeah.
A roadmap of what you intend to do.
Yeah.
And what you do need is for the Conservative Party for the next 5 years to go and screw up everything that they've ever said and go back on all their word.
Yeah.
And everyone turns around and says, "Oh my God, what have we just done?"
Yeah. I think that is the biggest failure of the Labour.
People don't know. People do not know, like they voted for the referendum.
Yeah.
To go out of the EU.
Yeah.
And to stay in the EU. People do not know why they did what they did. There's a lot of people that don't know. You seem very confused at what I'm saying.
No, because you said two almost oxymoronic
No, but I haven't said that though.
But
I'm saying
then
people,
you carried on.
Yeah, no, people do not know why.
Yeah.
They weren't informed as much.
Yeah.
But now there's even less informed than they were before.
Yeah, because the politics and the tricks that some of the Conservative Party and as well as other agents played is so dirty that this feeling of post-truth, not knowing what the truth is, all these kind of things, that's really been amplified.
Do you believe Corbyn is a good, could have been a good prime minister?
Yeah, but to be honest with you, because here's the thing, there was resistance in regards to his leadership from within the party. And in fact, there were even threats of the party being split, which is something that he had to hold on to.
No, not the party, the parliamentary part of the party being split.
Yeah, within the party. But to be honest with you, it was more deep than that. There's a lot of research that has been done that we've only come to light now to show the actual split that could have occurred.
Now, the subject of anti-Semitism that came up, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
It was a disastrous policy.
No, the thing is that from the outset, he should have been very strong with the journalists and say, listen, you lot keep on saying the same thing again and again.
Yeah.
Do you want me to have a tape recorder here and say I have put policies into place which were never there before? Yeah. And we are sorting out the issue. Every party has an issue with certain things.
Yeah.
For you to make this an agenda, saying it again and again and again, I'm finding rather boring. That would have rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way, yeah? But let's face it, hold on, let's face it, there is an issue with anti-Semitism, but how do you define anti-Semitism? You know how it was defined by a lot of the other people that put the complaint forward? They spoke out against the state of Israel.
Yeah.
Because I remember one guy, he was, oh God, I can't remember who he was. He gave an interview on LBC and he said, I've been vindicted. Yeah. Because I spoke out against the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but they're committing war crimes.
Yeah.
And I will speak out against them. It's got nothing to do with Jews.
Yeah.
And it hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, if I could just say it, like, Corbyn was right in terms of, trying to put the message out there that anti-Semitism does need to be challenged. It does need to be challenged.
Of course it does.
One is one too many.
Any form of thing like that is disgusting.
Thing is, what he did was only, and this is the Labour Party itself as well, only go via the route of appeasement. And when you're trying to appease a group of people who are trying to attack you,
you can please some of the people.
You'll only strengthen them, and he actually strengthened their hand. So I agree. Look, apologizing for anti-Semitism within your party, yes, I agree with that. Challenging anti-Semitism within your party, yes, that's something he did, and I totally agree with that. Coming out with policies, procedures, that is something that he did say again and again and again, and I totally agree with all of it. But what he didn't say was the other part of the campaign, which he knew a lot about, which was that there is this campaign of redefining anti-Semitism to mean anti-Zionism, and he was being targeted for his pro-Palestine policies. Now, the danger which Corbyn and the leadership went, the route that they took, is something that we're seeing coming at play now. We knew, a lot of the people, a lot of the activists knew that it's not going to stop there. It's going to carry on. Now, what you have is people like John Mann, anti-Semitism czar, saying that he's going to go after and investigate online publications for anti-Semitism, like the Canary and all these other Squawk Box and all these other leftist groups. But we also knew that this isn't just going to stick to the UK. It's also going to go over to the United States and target Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what's happening now. Now you're having articles saying Bernie Sanders is anti-Semitic.
So I think where the Labour Party need to define, because I don't know if they have.
No, they adopted the IHRA definition and it didn't stop. They adopted the IHRA definition.
Okay.
It didn't stop. The thing is, it got manipulated again by the media. The Labour government, the Labour leadership, Jeremy Corbyn adopted the IHRA definition.
Right.
But what he had
appeasement.
No. There's nothing wrong with the definition. The definition itself, nothing wrong with.
Yeah.
What he had a problem with was the examples that came along with the definition.
Right.
So basically, the IHRA definition is two sets. It's two sections. One section is the definition itself, which is like, targeting Jews for being Jews or something like that. Which again, that is a definition that should be adopted.
Right.
But then the second part of it was the examples. And the reason why the organization came out with the examples is because they wanted to guide organizations in regards to how to apply the definition in real life scenarios. Corbyn and some of the people within the Labour leadership had problems with 4 of the 11 examples because they related directly to Israel. And because of that, what the newspaper spun is that Corbyn and the Labour leadership had an actual problem with the definition. They never had a problem with the definition. They had a problem with the examples, and that was what was being manipulated. And then what Corbyn did was he actually exceeded. So out of the 4 examples, he actually allowed 2 of them. And then the actual main example, which is the idea of Israel being a racist endeavor, that was one thing. That was the one thing he never actually conceded to. But out of sheer pressure, he wanted to add a further commentary on that, which is that this isn't going to stifle freedom of speech in regards to Palestinian activism. So things like that got completely blown about by the NEC.
So
just to end it, Corbyn never ever actually opposed the definition, the IHRA definition. He actually accepted it through and through. What he had reservations about were the examples of the definition, which is a different thing.
Okay, so we're now 27 minutes into 15 minutes into a podcast. But okay, so look, let's wrap up this show. What does the future hold in 30 seconds?
Hope. A lot of people are defeated, but because they see the limits of the socialist project. But my involvement, I didn't see the limits. I saw the opportunities there, and I'm thinking, you know what? Next time we're going to come back bigger, better, and stronger.
Okay, thank you. What was yours?
The future. The thing that I keep thinking about is 30 seconds. Yeah, is obviously this challenging times and all that, and the Brexit, all of that needs to occur now. But I think on an individual basis, I think of some of the things that some of these motivational guys have said, like, on what level is Boris Johnson continuing his government, or even Jeremy Corbyn coming in? What is that going to affect you on a daily basis going about your daily life? Certainly in the immediate term, absolutely nothing. So you get on with what you need to do. This doesn't change you and your goals and everything like that as an individual. Carry on doing that. Maybe for you, because he's a Labour dude. No, but for me, on a personal, everyday, daily life, it's the same thing.
Okay, so to wrap up, we're going to continue on the Facebook thing for about 2 more minutes, but to wrap up, I don't think the endeavor should stop. This is the right time to put everything straight. Yes, you do need to carry on what you're doing, but I believe truly that there were mistakes that were made and they need to be rectified within the party. Just on the campaign level, yeah, they need to be changed. Within the party, but you know, there are troubled times ahead, and I will tell you that now. You need to be prepared. Don't ever take anything for face value. But I want to thank everyone for joining us on Anchor FM. We're going to stay on Facebook for another 5 minutes. Do join us next time, and we'll put posts out on Instagram. But thank you very much, and good evening, good day, and good night from Feed and Vibe Podcast. Yeah. Right, so, okay, so let me get one thing straight, everyone here who's listening. We've got a big crowd. You're actually right.
Yeah.
We were out on
oldies, man. Go on Facebook Live.
Yeah, we were on YouTube. We did something on YouTube. If you go to Feed and Vibe Podcast on YouTube, Feed and Vibe Podcast on YouTube, and well, we did something about the Messiah, that Netflix trailer that's come out. And we did something about.
Mention that again.
Classic.
The pre-election. That was a useless podcast, anyway.
Yeah.
But
it was jokes.
Yeah, it was interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, so check out our YouTube channel, Feed and Vibe Podcast. Everything's in a work in progress at the moment. You know, we've only been a few weeks. We've had this lovely set up. Before that, we were doing everything from a car.
I think you should shout out some of the people, man.
Yeah, I don't want to embarrass. I think people
actually
join secretly.
Yeah, because if you don't shout out one,
but there's been a nice turnout. Thank you very much for listening. Do join our Feed and Vibe Podcast page on Facebook. Leave any comments if you wish. If you think if you want to give any suggestions for any further subjects in the future,
that would be nice. Suggestions.
We're on Instagram as well, Feed and Vibe Podcast. We're on Twitter, Feed and Vibe Podcast. So do join us. It's the Feed and Vibe. The Feed and Vibe Podcast. Just type us in, you'll see a logo with someone going like that in Feed and Vibe Podcast. But we're about real talk here. And we do our podcast every Saturday night. We put out posts before then, so do join us. I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful having you lot. It's our first time on Facebook. I think we're going to do this quite often every week. And we might do some recorded shows as well.
Yeah.
I'll put out some motivational podcasts during the week, which is probably going to be a one-to-one that I'll do. And that's it. But I want to thank everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
If there's any comments you like I said again, if there's any suggestions that you want to leave for us as to further subjects down the line, please do leave a comment on our Feed and Vibe Podcast page or on our Instagram page.
Try this, man. I just need to see.
Oh my god!
See how that looks like, man.
Here's that, man. How's that? Sorry, guys.
All right. Anyways, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, you take care, and we'll see you next week. Have an amazing weekend, and we're about to have a nice cup of coffee in the local gaff down the road.
Peace.
All right, take
care. Feed and Vibe.
Yeah, press save, bro. Whatever. Do not cancel that one.
If you want to end the video live now, you'll be able to choose if you want to.